Hello, everyone, and welcome to another World of Sasquatch. Today's show is being recorded on 1/12/25. This is actually more of a continuation of a conversation, sort of the lifting episode that you saw on the object that Sean Bond and his team dug up from Mexico, and also the theme based upon objects like this. Me and Aubrey talked about it as oops objects on Conspiracy Sector. And also, you'll have already seen the snippet by the time you see this of Galactic Intraversal Consortium on the Future Kind. So this is where we're at with this. But before we go into any other talk, I now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for benevolence now to please come in with no conflicting agenda in order to have this conversation in peace and to be supported during this conversation, be it passed on friends, loved ones, galactics, elementals, whoever wish to come in, but again, with no conflicting agenda. And we ask now for malevolent and mischievous beings to be swept aside so that this conversation can please be had in peace and give you the opportunity to truly think about what's being said and to bring into it anything into your life that you find useful. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say, so be it.
And so be it. I heard the Sasquatch basically saying, "We're all three." Elemental, galactic, and all the rest.
They do to qualify as it all.
Yeah, we're the all of it. Yes, sort of. All right. Kidding, but not. All right. And it's us only. You mentioned everybody else. So, so technically, since we're all of these things, this particular forest person has never spoken on here before. He's one that we met, and I got a photograph of him in Arizona, along with his brother Fuma and Seymour. This is Mirnak. I recognized him from a photograph. He's literally the only Sasquatch I got in full, not necessarily full body, but actual solid where you don't see through them, where it was some of the chest up. And if I can find the picture, I won't put it on the show, but you'll see it accompanied with the link on Facebook and other social media. So. With that said, I will go into this with Mirnak. Give me a moment. Okay, Mirnak. No, I have the foot. Okay. Oh, you want to?
Which one?
Black. Yeah, he's black and gray. He's this color here. And so up here. He's black and gray and has like gray highlights in his eyebrows and everything. He's similar looking to Fuma, but he's he a little shorter. Are you saying Fuma's shorter or you? You are okay. And kind of it looks like Fuma with the shorter neck and all that. Uh, no, Isaac, he's not bulbous. Okay. Right. He's flipping them off too. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, don't let the clown distract you, Mirnak. Okay. They like to call him the clown. Yes, it is I, Mirnak. I call Arizona my home, as you know, along with Sufas, my grandfather, and Seymour, and Morak, and Uma as my brothers. There are a few more that don't wish to be talked about, but that's fine. This conversation is interesting because this extends the conversation about that particular object. But this also extends the conversation. I will let the future kind do more so, but there are those two rivals, the future kind and the time core, and of course Martian Germans and all the ones you aforementioned. Isaac gave light to the time core and the future kind and the Martian German involvement. But I will go a slightly different route. Yes, do objects get buried for others to find, like time capsules? Yes, of course. Messages for the future. Also warnings such as your Olmec heads. They were placed in the ground to diffuse their energy. Very much like how your orgone pieces, some have to be outside and on the ground and some have to be buried because of the immense power. It's not that that was dark, and it's not like the Olmec heads were dark. It's just they were powerful. It's also akin to that story you heard on Ancient Aliens with the guy that blew himself up under the rock kind of thing. He lived under the rock. It's because the energy got to him. It was too intense. And also places like the Sedona, these places were meant as temples, not necessarily places to live. But I'm off topic. The artifact in question, yes, was buried a long time ago. And does it promote the whole gray agenda? Yes, you bet, along with those other parties that were yielded in. But is this also a warning from future kind, like that crop circle? Yes. Now, this could be considered that. This is why this was allowed. It then narrows the timeline, and Time Core can say that they calculated it down when in fact they were allowed to do so in this instance. And the Martian Germans just think they're so damn great, the fact that they're involved at all. But we don't need to go into them. This, and there is not only congratulatory mood in play for those that found this, but this is not being taken away from. But this is bigger than you think. The reason you had a nulled feeling is because it was sensory overload as to what and whom was involved. Our people are involved in these types of things as well. Our people have not only been in danger of timeline rearranging and temporal rearranging, but some have tried to go back in time to even uncreate our origin story. But at the same time, we also have assisted in burying certain things, even burying not only histories per se, like we hide ourselves, but it's like the Tartarian world unity, where they just kept on existing and just went and hid in their summit. This is also a very important topic as well. They can go into their influence into some other time, just like you have your Orions and the Council of Kenda 4. You have the yins and yangs in all aspects of existence. People think it's about pure neutrality, but even Creator, the one you call God, is basically light, shadow, and neutral. It is all neutral until you call on the true benevolent source creator and the Orions summon the dark creator. I will let the Canada 4 Council go into that when they do so on your GIC. And I will let the future kind go into their origin stories on GIC. But I will now go into question.
So, I would say sensory overload was really probably a better description of what happened when we looked at that. I agree with that because I was in such shock, first of all, and upset. Anyone who saw the other show could.
It's a download in one massive punch an uppercut to the face. Yes.
Right. And then there are energies, there's absolutely something coming off of it. I think an energy, some sort of energy coming off of it. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a cool, great energy. I wouldn't necessarily call it a healing energy.
No.
So what is your perspective on what in the world is coming off of that?
This is a mix of things. You are detecting multiple temporal signatures because think of it this way. Say if somebody does surgery on yourself, or say if somebody walks on a piece of land, or say if someone enters a room, or many people enter a house, or even in a hospital or a shopping mall where there's multiple people involved in all different aspects. You don't know where they are in their evolution. You don't know what attachments they have on them, etc. Think of an object that had multiple, not only calculations and intentions behind it, but think of groups of people that wanted to adhere to their agendas. Think of also like saying your Marvel Cinematic Universe where Thor puts and Odin put the spells on Mjolnir. One for Thor basically getting out of his arrogance, the other one for Thor healing Jane in Thor Love and Thunder. You notice how the spells, words become spells, intentions become spells as well. And in this, Future Kind allowed this to be so people would see I don't want to say fraudulent, but see the warning, even though they put that other crop circle. They did that themselves, by the way. You see those shining orbs that are making the circles, that is them in a lot of cases, but some aren't. You have the false ones, and then you have other groups doing it too. But then you have time core calculating. And then you have the multiple timelines that this thing has passed through. Some objects were built temporally to withstand timelines. Think of a goofier scenario from in your Back to the Future movie. What happened when Marty lays his girlfriend on the swing? Then he goes back and alters the timeline. She's still in the same spot. What happened in your Ash versus Evil Dead when he alters his own timeline? He is still a certainty. What happens in your Deadpool and Wolverine when Wolverine is replaced onto to that particular timeline as an anchor beam? Unmovable. Immovable object emits an unstoppable force. This, as it was created, they knew that no matter how many timelines shifts that took place, no matter how many timelines gently touched and passed objects back and forth, they calculated that an object had to remain, or your Jack Harkness from your Doctor Who, where the TARDIS considered him a fact and panicked because everything is supposed to be fluctuating, not necessarily always factual, except in their individual universes. You see, everything's a fact in their own universes. Even the physics are different within the aspects of the multiverse. You cannot have an object always that's an anomaly. Just like the Doctor calls Jack Harkness an anomaly, or time would say you're a fact, an unmovable object. This is why you are getting all of these different signatures. There's this weird signature from it that is an overload. Yes, there's dark on it, there's light on it. A lot of surgeons had their hands on it. A lot of people had their hands in the till, including our own, were around this. This was put back ages ago, but it has also become part and was part of that agenda to promote the grays encoded and decoded into people's minds. Again, also another reason we self-promote is to do the same, but for good sides. The same that it will do for the Council of Canada, the same will do for they'll do for the Future Kind is being done for the Greys and all variations of that particular race set and set of subsets. This is no different. You were getting this feeling, just like when you stacked all those stickers together in one area and stacked a thick phone booth sized stack of them, and you felt sick. It's because the power was compacted. You were feeling a compacting of timeline. Oops objects are this way, where they drop from timeline to timeline. You were feeling a compacting of timelines for something that was created not to be altered by time alterations because they wanted a message through, and even the yield was in place because the Future Kind wanted it, the Martian Germans wanted it, Time Core wanted it. See the power of 3 that was added in there? So you're seeing that triad. They're not working together. They're rivals of each other, but you still are feeling that, if this makes sense.
Well, it does, meaning that each particular person involved in it, again, had their own kind of agenda, their own hope for humanity to interpret this as, their own you know what I mean, perspective on this. So I am curious about, from your perspective, and since you're saying that the Sasquatch people also had a hand in this, what was the goal for you guys from now, for it to be found, for its interpretation? What was your hope?
Because if one thing, regardless whose other intent was on it, if one thing was seen as factual, just like that other alien artifact that was found in Mexico a couple of years back, even with all that in place, Isaac has his own perspective. We have ours. Even if one thing's in place, then what do people question about what else is real? What, like, say, our feet in the mud, say, our people being sighted in the woods. What else is real to them? If the dark aliens are real, then what about on the side of the light? As you people would quaintly put it, there's more to it than dark and light, but you understand what I'm saying. What else is real? What else can be decoded and encoded? What else can be looked at as truth? This is the only reason, and literally the only reason, that this was allowed. So you can say we are involved to that kind of extent.
And so in general, it is your understanding that these objects are, is there any truth to the fact that these objects are not usually found until there's a particular energetics that allow their finding?
Yes, you are correct, Joanna. The frequency has to be as of such so for them to actually be seen. Some people argue, oh, they weren't found because they were just planted. Some things are that way. Yes, they're planted there so people find them, but some are put back via time travel into antiquity. But as you cross timelines, as you get into a certain perception and perspective, and he says, grounding your avatar in the I am presence along with the better part of your oversoul and better part of your avatar in the I am presence. Once you start to approach, then you start to ground more in your I am presence. You begin to see all these anomalies. The people more than likely passed over that spot a million times where that artifact it was found. Would they have seen it? No, because they were not in the right timeline. Even though I said it anchors in a bunch of them, there's still a fluctuating frequency by which you wouldn't be able to access unless you had passed into that frequency. That is true of some things, not true of all things. Sometimes you see things of multiple frequencies and you don't know that. Sometimes you see ghosts pass you on the street. You think they're regular humans. They think they're regular humans. Just like you on your Are You Afraid of the Dark years ago, where a ghost thought he was still human. He didn't know he had died and was asking somebody for help, and he was getting phone calls from a dead girlfriend. It is because that frequency anchored him to a particular moment, and that was based on a true story, by the way. They died in a train car crash. This was back in the 50s, early 50s, actually, 52, 53, somewhere in there. But with this, it's the same. Also, if you have never seen an object before, this goes into coding and decoding, encoding and decoding. If you've never seen something before, how does your brain have context for the energies, like with the overload, this goes with it, and with all the hands in the till? How can your brain conceive of something like this? Again, they could have passed by it a million times. It still would have been there. They could have stubbed their toe on it and would have just seen it as a rock or a tree stump. Something they are familiar with, like your Native Americans when they saw the Europeans come over. They could have swore the ships that came over were clouds. But when they encoded and decoded it further, they saw that it was made of wood and canvas. You see what I'm saying?
So, I'm assuming obviously there are more than just a few things that have been placed benevolently
Yes,
for people to find.
the hundreds of them actually, and some that have passed from different timelines or the other and have remained in those spots in even multiple timelines as well.
And so, I guess because, again, as it was mentioned in the previous show, I think right now, some of the things that are on people's minds are, could Egyptians have come to North America? And I think obviously this is another object that's going to be able to say somehow there were Egyptians in North Carolina. We have heard that there were quite a few things found in Arizona.
Of the Templar and Egyptians in the Grand Canyon. Yeah.
Right, that really aren't out there for public to know about yet. But
there's a Mayan city or Lemurian city in the Grand Canyon as well.
Right. So I would imagine if we're getting to that time frame of revealing that knowledge, that there's going to be discoveries made in different places as well that make it out into the public for discussion rather than just hidden away.
Yes, you will begin to see this more and more and more. Things that are related to narratives, things that are related to not only us, Time Core, and also Future Kind. Will start to mark things with their usual crop circle stamping. They haven't done it completely as late because there's been too much interference. They picked and chose a time where the energy again was more aligning, which you were slightly more freer energetically when you went to Florida. Therefore, the communications were slightly better. They made it look, though, as if it was not a pre-planned conversation, but I must say that they are sticklers about the wheel of time coming around to a particular frequency point at a particular time, therefore communication possible. So these things were planned. Even your Rendlesham Forest incident was planned by the book and by the clock, you see. So as Isaac was saying that of them saying that time doesn't exist, anybody that says that time doesn't exist, they are obeying a psyops. It's all happening at once. There's still time, though.
So even that whole time discussion is interesting. Do you believe though that a clock can run one place one way and one place another way? Because if you just say time is real, then everybody's mind is going to go to it all is exactly the same everywhere.
No. What it is people, the reason people don't want time to be real is because then they're going to, they're mixing up the state of non-time, which is because you're allowing all of that to fall when you fall into your passion. That is different. You are in a state of non-time because you're not clock watching. You're not hearing the clock tick moment to moment, like tick tock, tick tock. In what I am trying to say is, and I'm being interfered with, excuse. Okay, with this, they want it to be like that because they clock watch because they are at work all the time or at school or somewhere that their soul does not wish to be. They would rather be on an island somewhere in the moment of non-time. What did they do? They said, oh, time melts away here, time drags on here, time must not exist. Wrong. It is still flowing, that energy is still flowing, everything is happening everywhere all at once. This is why if you prefer to be on a beach, you can't always say this is not possible because you keep manifesting more not possible moments. But time, yes, you have built a measure of time based on a linear scale, but it is parallel. It is like the Yargzadril tree you see in Loki. It is the tree with the bark as the timelines and the void in between the spaces. So, as Odin would talk about, and Thor talked about as well. And so did you, Isaac. Yes, I know you said it first, but whatever. In this, you have all of these different factors. It doesn't mean that you aren't experiencing them from one moment to the next. But what are you actually doing? You're jumping timelines. It's not a progression from one moment to the next. That is how your encoding and decoding taught you to be. It is actually happening all at once. And as you progress, you see those branches form. This is the natural progression of time. And in some universes, it can run backwards. They showed that in your sliders program, whereas they went into a universe where things were running backwards. They showed it in your Tenet movie, where they were inverting time. The clock does not run the same for each individual, let alone each individual universe and timeline and branch timeline, or the big Yargzadril tree. It is actually all happening at the same time. He even picks up where things have failed in one timeline and as he's progressing into this, or he's had a health issue in one timeline and now he's fine in this one. And also say when your animal friends take an ailment from you, say if you're about ready to have a stroke or something, or a diabetic attack or something, and the animal has taken this from you, guess what happens? Timeline jump. So, with that said, with each movement of your head, with each blink, you are experiencing other timelines around you. When you jump is when you come to an aha or an epiphany moment where that frequency changes and that fundamental, not necessarily fingerprint, you have the same quantum fingerprint. except if you were born in other parallel universes. As you're changing, that quantumness is shifting. You're still you, it's still the same oversoul, but it's experiencing itself through that change, if this makes sense. You have then these objects that are solid, but they are also in a frequency by which they're not always noticed. And they're not always noticed also because they can be camouflaged with a perception filter. He would say in Doctor Who, where the doctor put a key around his neck and Martha saw him warbling around, saying, "You look like a ghost, Ken. And yeah, don't talk to people or they'll think you're a ghost." They do this with us, see, because we're in a different frequency. The object then has also been pre-programmed with that perception filter to where the timer runs out at a particular time and will only come to meet those, or people will meet it and find it based upon that timing put over there by Time Corps, the propaganda that the Martian Germans want to put in, and the frequency by which the future kind want to put in. You see how that works.
I see how that works, but this goes back to, Chris would talk about again, what you would call the gambling of the gods, everyone having a little slightly
Hedge betting
different
the gods, yeah.
the hedge betting, throwing the dice, seeing which one comes out. I mean, that's what this sounds like.
Yes, it is, and this is how we are involved too. Do we hedge bet on our own people? Yes, we do. But we are not heartless like these other groups. We want communication, soul-felt companionship, and unity. But we still roll the dice by saying, okay, this will bring about these other truths. This will bring about this. But we also have to do our own fair share of manicuring as well to compete with these other hedge bettors rolling the dice. Is it?
Well, thank you. I'm not sure what else there is to ask about this, but I have to change the subject for a minute because again, obviously everyone knows what's going on in California right now with the fires. And I ask for your group. I know there's got to be Sasquatch, obviously, that are from those areas as well. How is all this affecting them?
They're safe, but have these weapons and all these other components harmed our people? Yes, they have. You forget there is a war going on, or little wars and skirmishes that become evident as time goes on. And also, as we were saying before, the land grabbing. There's only so much we're willing to tolerate and how much we're willing to retreat. As I've said, we're putting our face more out there, hence why you have all these other things. Hence why we had you obtain and utilize our form in this way. The little statues, I mean. This helps in ways you can't even fathom of at the moment. You believe you know what it's completely about. And you can't know completely that because it's an energetics thing that you haven't been privy to yet, the encoding, decoding. But how we are faring, yes, the gnomes and some of the Fae and elementals have been more put off and displaced than we have. They were working to protect that area because of the tree Fae are everywhere. Some of them were harmed in this, quite a few actually. You see their depictions in the movie Maleficent too, with the little one that goes around and makes that weird noise the whole time. That's how they are. A few of them, they're not, no insult to them, but they're not always savvy in strategy. We try to help them out, but they're more innocent in this. And some of them were harmed in the fires. And unfortunately, some have continued to be. But we have retreated to safe distances further north and can portal out of there, and we've attempted to show them areas out of there. It's just like how a horse will run into a burning barn. They're kind of the same way. They don't, he thinks that they are of a higher sentience. They're not always that way. They're more instinctual, but they are at the sentience boundary. Just like they showed in your Babylon 5 where they encountered these hyperspace beings, that they were just barely sentient. And they weren't extremely overly intelligent, no insult to them. Some are more so, And also you got the fairy types, and you have the Lonulosian beings, and some of the tall white hybrids and things of that nature, and Tirnanog with the elves and all this. But with them, sometimes they run into the burning barn, just like you have a dog that panics, or you have also some that are more of a feral type that will just like how pigeons eat seeds, or if you have ducks eat bread. You saw this with your friend Melissa, where she had one of these in her space, and she was feeding little balls of energy, and he had to shoo them out because then they start to want it and expect it, very much like squirrels tapping on your window. But squirrels and birds and ducks and all of them are not vampires. Some of them turn into ravenous vampires, by which then they were spoiled and they'll start to take your own energy, and that's when you have to decapitate them. But he compares them to the owls on Futurama by the dumpsters. That's that little isolated group. But then you have, say, a panicking dog, a panicking cat that hides under a bed. This is what we've had to deal with them. In Australia, it was the same thing with the fires. Any of the fires, they're in fear, but they freeze. And it's just like the woman grabbing the poor sloth that was wandering around in the burning jungle one time. It's the same thing. They don't always know they're being helped, but they're on an instinctual basis, if this makes sense with that. With us, though we have a very similar background, I do some humans out there in the galaxy. We try to, also with the gene splicing, everything that's been going on, we try to assist in that area, but we also have to think of us too. And we had to move further north into some of the other sanctuary areas. Now, were there forest people burned by this? Yes, but they weren't. No one was killed. It's usually the aquatic Draco that share that distinguishment. But in this incident, though, the dew weapons didn't do any harm. Ironically, we said dew like DEW, and in a Mountain Dew commercial, they show all of these races that are being decoded and encoded. Look carefully. There were also variations of that commercial that we were in, that we put our image in there. Look carefully. You also have your flow with your progressive insurance, with one of us being taken by a UFO. We're involved in some of these processes. So you're starting to actually see us, and also some lizard people are involved, and also some grays, and also human types. You'll see that progressing very quickly. That is actually a good thing. Also, cat people and the cat litter commercials, things of that nature. You're going to see far more of that than you ever wanted. And this is that talk about sensory overload. They want people to be on the boundary of sensory overload. So not the bad guys want them more malleable to what they want, the gray form, but they also want them to be more. Some of the good races want them to be more open, or the future kind and all them want them to be more open to what the possibilities are. That you're a voice in a choir, and you're not the center of the universe. And I wish to point out one thing: the Orions have your New Age community convinced that somehow Earthlings are the cure for the rest of the universe. No, that's like saying the world is flat. That's like saying oh, you're the center of creation. No, you're on a nexus point, and Odin also helped build the Bifrost. Of course, it's a central nexus, and it's a dimensional multiversal nexus with multiple Earths and multiple versions of your solar system and everything. Of course, it would feel like you're the center of creation. You're actually on the outer rim, and that colony for a time was forgotten. And but it wasn't forgotten for very long. It's just that the rest of the galaxy was on fire from the wars going on. So, yeah, even though the Orions had been entrenched for a while, the people have to understand you are not the center of creation. You're a member of creation, even in the multiverse. Very much like in your Star Trek Next Generation, where they introduced themselves to a race that they've been watching for some time that just passed the warp barrier. Their leader basically said, when he was asked if he'd had a good day, he said, "I just found out we're not the center of the universe, but we are a voice in a choir. But I've had a good day." This is what humanity will eventually learn. That will be a good day for them, but they're a voice in a very large choir.
So that's obviously, all of this is very interesting. I really don't have any more questions for right now. I just want to open it up to anything that you feel you would like to say during this time.
Yes, this has been a great discussion. We are the ones building the energy conduit this morning. He thought it was future kind, but no, they just listen. They're waiting for their opportunity to speak. Time Core, I would not recommend doing any channelings with them. They would just calculate as to what to say, and you probably wouldn't care about what they said anyway. And for one, and two, they would just say what would benefit to the timeline in which they're trying to manipulate. So you probably wouldn't want to talk to them anyhow. Uh, Not that they're all evil or dark or what have you. It's just they calculate what is said, therefore, to manipulate or manicure a timeline. The gardeners were involved in this, where they would manipulate the U.S. timeline. You saw them in Jamestown and all that stuff. So you probably don't want to talk to them. Future kind, we fully endorse. So I will leave this here. So thank you and blessings to all. Right. Yeah, that was actually excellent. So everything's blue in here. It's basically, it looks like the color of my shirt right now. Everything's just kind of this bright blue. That's how you know you've entered a particular state or meditative state. If you open your eyes and it's kind of purpley blue in the room, you know you've hit that theta alpha boundary. So the brainwave boundary. So with that said, Joanna, I don't know if you have anything else to add to this.
No, I hope everybody enjoyed this discussion today.
And also, I wish to say to the others in the Disclosure Now group, we wanted to really hammer down what this was about. This is why you did not see me respond immediately. I felt this was more complex. I know we said it was hollow, but at the same time, it was a sensory overload, and this had to be unpacked properly. So I want you guys to absolutely know this. Hopefully, if you've watched through this whole program, but I will put all the pertinent links under all of the different shows that then also lead back to GIC, which is Galactic Interversal Consortium.com, or for short, GIC.show. So thank you, everybody. And now I close this circle within true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.